You're exhausted, but what if it's more than just a lack of sleep? If you finally get a chance to rest and still wake up feeling just as heavy and just as drained, what does that mean? In this episode, we're breaking down the difference between normal new mom exhaustion and postpartum depression so you can better understand what your mind and body are trying to tell you. If this episode is triggering for you and you feel you need additional help to process your thoughts or feelings, please call or text the Postpartum Support International hotline at 1-800-944-4773 or go to their website at postpartum.net. Do you want practical steps to rein in the overwhelm and start feeling like yourself again, but struggle with feeling hopeless, unsupported, and misunderstood? If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Stephanie, wife, mom of 4, and a 2-time acute postpartum depression survivor. I learned the secrets of how to overcome the feeling of drowning and fully thrive as a new mom through life-giving hope and support. If you're ready for validation, encouragement, and those easy practical tips, then take a deep breath in, exhale, and we'll take the first steps together. Here we go. Hi, friend. Before we jump in, if you are enjoying this podcast or it has helped you in any way, I would be so grateful if you take a quick moment to leave a review on Apple Podcast. Your reviews help more moms find this show and get the support they need. You never know who it might reach. Thank you so much for being here. As a mom, it's easy to get bogged down in exhaustion, hopelessness, and feelings like you're not a good enough mom and that nothing you are doing to raise your children to have good character and being contributing members of society is working. But something that happened with my oldest daughter when I was still reeling from postpartum depression after the birth of my second is really relevant today. I had been studying the idea of Sabbath and what it can look like in our lives in a group Bible study, and one day while out running errands with my oldest, I was just exhausted and I needed a good Sabbath. She asked what that meant and I explained it to her that it's basically just rest. It's just to cease, to stop everything and rest. Assuming she was a bit too young to understand and being busy, we carried on with our day. Later that afternoon, I got home and I noticed that her room was not just messy, but it would have appeared to the average person that a tornado had perhaps come through. I asked several times politely for her to go upstairs and clean it, and I regret to inform you that there may have been a little bit of yelling involved. Finally, she trudged up the stairs into her room and closed the door. All was quiet, and I assumed she was cleaning. But when I went up an hour later, I found her room in the same state of disarray it had been, with the addition of a group of meticulously placed stuffed animals on her bed that she was reading to from the other side. I said, Hadley, what is going on in here? I asked you to clean your room. And without missing a beat, she replied, I know, Mom, but I needed some Sabbath. I laughed a deep belly laugh, which was the first such laugh since my youngest daughter, Brinley, had been born. And then I made her clean her room, and some more yelling may have been involved. What I had taught her that day on a whim had really stuck in her tiny soul, and that day she used it against me. But what it really meant is that I wasn't the complete failure of a mother PPD often led me to believe that I was. And a true rest, or Sabbath, if you will, truly rejuvenated my soul, despite the darkness of the depression I was in. Today, we are going to talk about the difference between exhaustion in the newborn phase, which is no joke, and postpartum depression, and some signs you can look for to tell the difference between the two. Also, what you can do if you realize you're struggling. So first, can you rest when given the chance? I want you to stop and think, because exhaustion improves with rest, but postpartum depression often doesn't. Let's start with something every new mom is experiencing: exhaustion. Newborn sleep is unpredictable, broken, and honestly, it can be brutal. It is brutal. Waking every 2 to 3 hours or more, adjusting to feeding schedules, and being on all the time takes a real toll on both your body and mind. With normal postpartum exhaustion, even though there's nothing normal about it, you're still tired. There's still a connection between rest and relief. It might not be perfect, but it helps. So a nap while the baby sleeps might give you a small reset. A slightly longer stretch of sleep might make you feel a little more human the next day. Even 20 to 30 minutes of rest can take the edge off. But with postpartum depression, that connection between sleep and feeling better often isn't there. So, you might sleep for a few hours and wake up feeling just as exhausted as before. You may feel physically rested, but emotionally still drained. It could be that you dread going to sleep because your mind won't quiet down, or you struggle to fall asleep even when your baby is finally sleeping. Throughout all of my experiences with postpartum depression, I have experienced at one time or another all 4 of these, and sometimes multiple in combination. So imagine this. Your partner takes the baby for a few hours so you can rest. You lie down, and instead of falling asleep, your mind starts racing. Am I doing this right? What if something happens to the baby? Why do I feel this way? Or maybe you do fall asleep, but when you wake up, you don't feel refreshed at all. It's like the sleep didn't count. Another example is when moms say, I'm exhausted, but I can't shut my brain off. That disconnect is often a sign that something deeper is going on than just a lack of sleep. So ask yourself gently, do I feel even slightly better after rest? Not perfect, not fully recharged, because let's be honest, you have a newborn, but just a little better. If the answer is consistently no, if rest doesn't bring any relief, then it's worth talking to your provider. That's your body's way of signaling that this may be more than just exhaustion. Second is temporary fatigue versus persistent emotional weight. So the idea here is that exhaustion affects energy, but postpartum depression affects emotional well-being. Being tired absolutely affects your mood. When you're running on little sleep, it's completely normal to feel irritable, short-tempered, overwhelmed, and like a lot of new moms, more emotional than usual. But with normal exhaustion, those feelings tend to shift. They're influenced by what's happening around you. So for example, after a nap, you feel a bit more patient. After a good conversation with a friend, your mood lifts. When your baby smiles or settles, you feel a moment of relief or joy. With postpartum depression, the emotional experience is much heavier and much more constant. You might feel a deep, lingering sadness that doesn't go away. Hopeless, like things won't get better. Emotionally numb, like you're going through the motions but not really feeling anything. I did that a lot. Or disconnected from your baby, your partner, or even yourself. And that's a ditto for me as well. And one of the biggest differences is this. These feelings often last most of the day, regardless of what's happening around you. For example, you could have a good day on paper. Your baby slept a little longer. You got out of the house. Maybe you had a little bit of help and still feel this heavy emotional weight sitting on your chest. Or you might notice that even in moments that you should feel happy, like holding your baby or spending time with loved ones, that you just feel flat or even guilty for not feeling the way you think you quote unquote should feel. All of those things happen to me, and I understand them on a deep level. Another example is exhaustion says, I'm so tired today. PPD often says, I feel empty and I don't know why. So try this quick daily check-in. Ask yourself, is this just tired, or do I feel deeply low most of the day? If what you're feeling goes beyond fatigue, if it feels like a persistent emotional heaviness that doesn't lift with rest, support, or time, that's a sign to reach out, because you do not have to carry that alone. Third is thoughts and mental load. So overwhelmed versus intrusive thoughts. The type of thought here is what matters. So let's talk about your thoughts, because this is a big one and it's something many moms don't feel comfortable sharing. With normal exhaustion, your brain can feel foggy, forgetful, easily overwhelmed, scattered. The list goes on in that newborn phase, mama. You might walk into a room and forget why you're there, lose track of conversations, or feel like your mental tabs are open all at once. That's very normal with sleep deprivation. But with postpartum depression, the thought patterns can just become more intense and more distressing. This can include things like intrusive thoughts, so unwanted, scary thoughts that pop into your mind. For me, if I put this baby down, I am going to harm myself. That was not me. It was unwanted. It was petrifying and just popped in, and it was so real and so heavy. It can also include persistent worries that feel hard to control, thoughts that feel completely out of character for you, and repetitive loops that you can't seem to shut off. Again, in my case, that first time, my baby deserves a better mom. My husband deserves a better wife. The world would be so much better off without me. Just over and over and over on constant loop. So a mom might suddenly think something like, what if I drop my baby? What if something terrible happens? These thoughts can feel shocking and terrifying. They certainly did for me. Not because you want them, but because they go against everything you feel as a mother. Or you might notice repetitive thoughts such as what I said, or I'm not a good mom, I'm failing, everyone else is handling this better than me. And these thoughts don't just pass, they stick, they replay, and they feel hard to control. Here's something so important to understand. Having intrusive thoughts does not mean you will act on them. It also does not mean you are a bad mom. It means your brain is overwhelmed and needs support. Another key difference is avoidance. If you find yourself afraid to share your thoughts because they feel scary or shameful, that's a sign they may be more than typical overwhelm. So I want to gently encourage you. Say your thoughts out loud to someone you fully trust. That could be your partner, a close friend, a therapist, your doctor, anyone in your sphere that is encouraging you and supporting you. Make sure you say those thoughts out loud to someone you trust. You can even start simple. Like, I've been having some thoughts that feel scary and I need to talk about them. A helpful test is this. How willing and able am I to say these thoughts out loud? If they feel too scary, too persistent, or too out of character to share, it's really important to seek professional support because you deserve peace in your mind. So let's do a simple check-in together. Do I feel even slightly better after rest? Am I just tired, or do I feel low most of the day? And are my thoughts intrusive or out of character? And a good test for that, again, is how willing and able you are to speak honestly about them with someone you trust. Being tired is 100% part of having a newborn. We all know that. And honestly, newborn tired is its own category of tired. But feeling persistently low, disconnected, or overwhelmed in a deeper way is not something you have to push through alone. There is help, and healing is absolutely possible. There is hope, Mama, and I am living proof of that. Remember, if today's episode was triggering for you and you feel you need additional support to help process your thoughts, please call the Postpartum Support International hotline at 1-800-944-4773. You can also find their contact information in the show notes for each of my episodes and on their website by going to postpartum.net.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of my mom's show.
If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mom friend who may be struggling to feel like herself and is in need of some encouragement today?
Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It blesses my mom's heart to know this podcast is helping you.
Okay, time to go change a diaper and do the school run. I'll meet you back in a few days for another episode.
Take care.